Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of college basketball. Back from a little hiatus once again, but what else is new? What certainly isn't new is Purdue basketball getting yet another conference win, this time against the Washington Huskies. But without further ado, let's run it. Back in action in their first trip out to the West Coast, Purdue got off to a rough start in what looked like it was going to be a really low scoring matchup. But they flipped the script massively in the second half, outscoring the Huskies 47 to 28 to come away with another key conference road win with a score of 69 to 58. How did they turn it on just like that? Let's talk about it. The first half started slow but fast, if that's even possible. There were so few stoppages of play between missed shots, turnovers, and no timeouts that we steamrolled through the first 6 minutes of play until we finally got to a dead ball turnover by TKR that caused the under 16 timeout, and the score was only 6 to 5 Purdue at that point. Purdue caused quite a few turnovers early, but it would be the Huskies that scrapped and pressured Purdue into making quite a few of their own over the course of the first half. Unlike their demolition of Nebraska recently, Purdue couldn't find the three ball at all during the first half, the first time all season that they couldn't get a single three to fall in the first half. And their lack of presence from deep had them going into halftime down 30 to 22, not out of reach, but not pretty whatsoever. Enter Matt Painter's mystery halftime speech that nearly never fails to jumpstart the hearts of his players. The Boilers wasted no time jumping out to a hot start in the second half with a TKR bucket in the first possession, and off they went. An 11-2 run over the first 5 minutes saw the lead jump back to Purdue, and it was a brand new game from there, one that Purdue proved they just wanted more. They sucked all the life out of the arena, and you could hear the Purdue faithful, which were quite a few out in Seattle, as the Boilers controlled every bit of the second half. TKR completely woke up after a bit of a slow first half, scoring 13 of his 19 points in the second. Caleb first saw his most productive game of the year, scoring and making some free throws, and the backcourt woke up with three threes falling between Braden and Fletcher. It was a fun sight to see as a Purdue fan and very comforting to see them push through the adversity on their first long road trip. After putting up a walloping 47 points in the second half, the Boilers would comfortably walk away with an 11-point victory, 69 to 58. Heading into our top performers, at the top of the list, you've got Trey Kaufman-Renn. Once again, leading Purdue with 19 points on an efficient 8 of 13 shooting. He was only 3 for 7 from the free throw line, but that once again is not new. And as well as tacking on 6 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a block, but 4 turnovers in his 34 minutes. Behind him was Braden Smith with a fantastic all-around game of 17 points on 7 of 14 shooting, 1 for 3 from 3, adding 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals, as well as 4 turnovers in his 40 minutes. Did not come out in this one. For Washington, you're led the way by Great Osibor, who put on a monstrous performance, putting up 28 points on 8 of 9 shooting, a perfect 5 for 5 from 3, which, by the way, he had only made 4 threes in the entire rest of the season thus far, but he was perfect from deep tonight, as well as 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals, but 6 turnovers in his 33 minutes. So fantastic performance from him. Behind him, you had off the bench Makai Mason, who had 12 points on 5 of 11 shooting, 2 for 7 from 3, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 steals in his 32 minutes. And for the honorable mentions, for the first time this year, we bring in Caleb First, who, as I mentioned, had a fantastic game with 15 points, season high for him. 4 for 4 from the field, 7 for 9 from the free throw line, which is great for him, especially shooting in that volume, as well as adding on 6 rebounds and 4 steals of his own and 1 block in his 26 minutes. So fantastic. He's played so much better since we put him back in the starting lineup for the first time since I believe his freshman year. And for Washington, their honorable mention is Zoom Diallo. Usually plays better than this, but he only had 6 points on 2 of 8 shooting, a perfect 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 turnovers, and 5 fouls. He fouled out in his only 22 minutes. Heading into the key team points for Purdue, it's controlling the game. The first half was controlled too much by Washington. That made Purdue uncomfortable, forced turnovers, and even when they didn't, Purdue got pushed out of their sets and really weren't getting great looks. You combine that with not getting many in rhythm, open threes, and you get a 22-point first half. The difference in the second half was Purdue controlling the pace and setting the tone from the jump. They got TKR going, a couple of threes to fall, and got out and transition more when the Huskies went cold, and that allowed them to more than double their point total from the first half. And secondly, it's how to win without the three. Purdue has either been completely on or completely off when it comes to three-point shooting in recent games, but they found ways to adapt and be successful when the threes weren't falling in this one. TKR did his usual in the paint, despite having to battle with Osibor for a good majority of the game, and both he and Caleb First made their money through a little three-man pick and roll game. If they took away TKR on the roll, he would just dump it off to First for an easy bucket, and that helped First put up his season high 15. The Boilers may be a three-point powerhouse when they're shooting well, but they've proved that they can still find ways to score without the deep ball. And thirdly, it's getting out and running. With 12 steals as a team, Purdue was unusually chaotic and disrupting, and that led to a lot of transition baskets throughout the game. The Boilers outscored the Huskies 18-4 in points off turnovers, and that type of play just deflates your opponent and the opponent's crowd. Just look at the games where Purdue has imploded with turnovers. We know that feeling all too well. But in a game like this, where the first half was all Huskies, that type of defense was exactly what the doctor ordered to flip the game on its head and give Purdue all the momentum throughout the second half. As for Washington, where's the backup? Great Osibor looked fantastic tonight with his 28 points on nearly perfect shooting, but behind him, there wasn't a whole lot. I don't want to discredit Makai Mason because his 12 points off the bench were very big, but their usual second and third options in Tyler Harris and Zoom Diallo put up pretty significant goose eggs, at least by their standards. Diallo found himself in foul trouble and only played 22 minutes, and Harris just couldn't get much going either, with the two of them scoring just 11 combined points. If Washington wants to have much success in the Big Ten, they're going to need a much more balanced attack than they had in this one. Secondly, it's holding on to the ball. This Huskies team averaged around 11 turnovers per game, which isn't great nor terrible, but they made Purdue's defense look like superstars by making bad passes directly to them, sloppy dribble drives, and leaving the ball for Purdue to swipe at easily. They ended up with 17 turnovers in this one, and so many of them being live ball turnovers allowed Purdue to get out on the break, as I mentioned earlier. They had all the momentum as they extended their lead out to double digits in the first half, but all the turnovers were just them shooting themselves in the foot again and again throughout the game. And thirdly, it's foul trouble. With Zoom Diallo fouling out and multiple other players with three or more fouls, Washington didn't help their case on the defensive end by sending Purdue to the line 22 times. Outside of Osibor, their next two leading scorers both got themselves in foul trouble. Diallo, of course, with 5, and Mason with 4. When the shots weren't falling much in the second half, the last thing they wanted to do was rotate out some of the only guys that have had success scoring, but fouls will do that to you. It clearly didn't serve them well, and I'm sure they will look to keep guys on the floor in future games. But Purdue will stay on the West Coast to take on number 13 Oregon this Saturday in a very important top 25 matchup for two teams fighting to stay up near the top of the Big Ten standings. And believe it or not, Washington gets some time off until Tuesday when they too will visit Eugene to take on the Ducks as they look to avoid losing a fifth game in a row. But that's all I've got for today. Hoping to be back more consistently, but a new job may make my schedule interesting. So your patience is appreciated with the Big Ten season continuing in this new year. I look forward to covering as much Purdue basketball as I can and hopefully analyzing some of the other top teams in the conference as well before March Madness hits. But if you want more from us, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I'm out.